it's really tough because sometimes we do have to normalize having conversations about what we would kill people over. And that's a hard thing to say, but it's true because you see this a lot on Twitter where, you know, if I were to tweet, hey, you break in my house, I'm probably going to shoot you. Like, I'm probably going to kill you. And then they're like, oh my God, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you have a conversation with them about why they want to be in your house? And like, what do they want? And I'm like, because I'm not a mind reader. Like, so the general population needs to understand that if you come into my house without permission, I'm not going to ask you any questions.
There's no questions at that point.
I'm going to shoot you.
Yeah.
And we have to normalize that conversation because we denormalized it.
What's going on, everybody? It is Anthony Russo from #BeTheChange. Truth will set you free and blunt force discussion. This is another episode. I'm calling this the 2A discussion with a lovely lady that is a 2A specialist. I got a gut feeling she's got no idea that we might actually disagree on some of the Second Amendment rules. I don't know what we're going to get into. That's why it's called blunt force discussion, is we're going to have some fun. We're going to agree on some stuff. And maybe, just maybe, we're going to disagree at the same time. That's what America's all about. Let's agree to disagree on occasion. And let's also, you know, find a way to find a middle ground. Why not? So this is going to be fun. We also have a decent amount of bourbon to get through on this one. She is a bourbon aficionado, cigar aficionado. She is a defense and firearms teacher, entrepreneur, domestic violence survivor, and advocate. That part we're probably not going to joke about, but we are going to talk about it, of course. Second Amendment proponent. Ladies and gentlemen, Jerah Hutchins. What's going on?
Hey, I'm here.
You're
I brought enough bourbon to disagree.
I don't think we're going to disagree much. Like, I don't want to like scare you on it. I mean, I'm a gun owner and I have my carry and all that stuff. But I don't know if I fully agree with everything. But we'll get into that.
Okay, we'll see what happens.
Let's start with what we're drinking.
So I brought a treat. I bought this based solely on the label and then ended up really loving it. So this is the Barrel Armida. And it's aged in rum.
This is the label?
Yeah, rum, brandy, and then Sicilian Amaro casks. And you made the joke earlier that I did not appreciate, by the way. Because I said my family was Sicilian, and you're like, oh, you're almost Italian. No, I'm not.
Yeah. So wait, so you don't consider yourself Italian, you just consider yourself Sicilian?
Yeah, that's the Sicilian culture, is we don't want to be Italian, we want to be Sicilian. It's kind of like Texas versus the United States. It's kind of like when you go to Spain and you have the Catalan culture versus everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way Sicilians are. We're a proud people.
So I'm Nabladon, I'm half Italian, half Jewish. I always say the joke is that means I tip well, can't stand to pay for parking. But the Italian side is from Naples, theoretically, according to Ancestry DNA, which, by the way, I regret ever doing that now. That might have been a huge mistake. But
oh, I loved mine.
Now we're getting into this. So first off, I don't trust them anymore because the Ancestry DNA, 23andMe, all that stuff, I don't want my DNA out there anymore. Just because. Oh,
well, I didn't do that.
Oh, what'd you do?
So I had a wonderful gift. My grandfather wrote our family history book with his 4 cousins and went all through the 5 families. So we got this whole Godfather.
I was going to say, you sounded like the mob rule right there.
Yeah.
We talked about the 5 families.
You forget about it. You know, leave the gun, take the cannoli. And we were gifted that book. I was 25, and then I didn't read it until I was 32. But one of the cool things, so my grandfather's from Sicily, and I always thought my grandmother was also from Sicily, but actually she was Native American. She's Iroquois. Okay. And so to make a long story short, I verified this on Ancestry, but I didn't have to do it with any DNA. Yeah. They were able to just, like, the family that I knew that I had, a leaf here and a leaf there, you know, in that really lined up with the book. And so my 8th great-grandfather is actually Tanacreson, who was the leader of the Iroquois Confederacy, and he spoke for the 6 Nations, and he was the personal translator for George Washington. So Tanacreson and George Washington basically single-handedly started the French and Indian War.
So let me get this straight. So you're Native American or Indian and Sicilian, correct? Interesting. So that means you also like to tip well and cook well.
And fight.
I was going to say, and you're an alcoholic. Shocker, you brought bourbon. It's only fitting that you are the first person to bring the drink. So with that said, let's try. I'm going to try this.
Yeah. I think you'll enjoy it.
It says on the back, Armida. Is it Armida or Armada?
Armida.
Oh, that's good. It actually tastes, it's different taste, though. It's a marriage of bourbon whiskeys finished separately in rum, pear brandy, and Sicilian Amaro casks. This limited highlights orchard fruit and exotic spice notes we must love about bourbon. And interesting. With that said, since we can't always have somebody bringing whiskey to the show, you can support us at patreon.com/bluntforcediscussion. Joe, he's so quick with that button. So again, we could use all the help we can get. In all seriousness, this is not cheap to do, and I've been blessed to have amazing guests to this point, and we're sharing it, doing everything we can. And if you go on our YouTube, please follow the YouTube as well. Become a subscriber so we can get that all monetized. Thank you guys for the support to this point. Thank you. I think the Trump hands are something that I just started doing after Trump. I don't remember ever doing this.
Well, you know, DeSantis does it too.
He does too.
If you really pay attention, and they almost have very similar mannerisms. But
do you think they're the same person? Have you ever seen them in the same place twice?
Well, now that you bring it up.
Have you seen young pictures? I believe as though once I showed Kelly, my girlfriend, pictures of DeSantis when he was younger. She wanted to leave me for DeSantis like that. Have you seen any young pictures of DeSantis?
He is so delicious.
He is dreamy.
I don't even want to, I don't know that I want to go down that rabbit hole because it's going to make me really depressed about my dating life. Because I think that maybe I could have, maybe if I had some different priorities, I could have hooked a DeSantis. I could have hooked me up on a DeSantis.
Him in that Navy suit.
And,
yeah.
Woof.
Well, good stuff. Okay, so I was gonna start. I can't laugh and then go into domestic violence. So we're gonna save that.
We'll save that for later.
For a second. So Clearing the Chamber is your website, kind of what your moniker is on social media. You're known as the 2A advocate. So where did Clearing the Chamber come from?
Well, I was gonna turn it into a blog. I grew up in a writing family. My grandmother's a published poet. My aunt writes mystery novels. And I was always a pretty gifted writer. And I thought, I'm going to start a blog. I have a lot of thoughts on things. I was super into guns. I was super into self-defense. And so I was going to have this blog where I was going to write, on current events and gun stuff and women's empowerment in business. And the thought process was, load your thoughts, pull the trigger, clear the chamber, kind of thing. And then when I really started teaching guns more full time, it consumed me. And I didn't really take a lot of time to write. And if I did, it was really, I had to be super on fire about what I was writing about. For example, I testified at the gun rights hearings in 2019 at Brookhaven College in front of our House representatives. And one of the people that was sitting on the panel was Pancho Navarro, who was a Democratic representative for Texas at the time. And what I didn't know when I was giving my testimony was that, a month prior, he had been busted for cocaine possession at the Austin airport. And he was still allowed to sit on this panel in a position of authority because so many people were trying to cover this up. And, he sat on a lot of really important committees, Homeland Security, et cetera. And so it made me go, well, how come he gets to make the rules? How come he gets to tell me what I can and can't carry? How come he gets to have an opinion on it if he can't follow the rules himself? And so I wrote a really scathing article about him in Gun News Daily. And so if I get a particular fire under my ass about something, I'll write about it. But that was how it originally started. And then I really just turned it into a training company, a self-defense and firearms training company that focused on women.
Yeah.
Because I felt like, especially at the time, women were so underserved in this education, or they were getting it from people who didn't really care about them, who were just, running them through like cattle, or they didn't really understand how women learned or wanted to learn this. And so I just, I went a different route with it. So
let's even rewind some more. So how did you, were you obviously, I'm assuming, raised with guns?
I was. Not from a self-defense standpoint. It was, in East Texas, that's what you do. You hunt before school and you fish after, and You know, that was guns were very much a part of our culture. And
Pretty sure
I'm
what you just said was what my girlfriend wishes I would have been as a man. So there you go. Hunt before school, fish after. Here I was. I went to art school and I play on my computer.
I'm going to have to take her out for a drink because I loved that episode.
Yeah.
I did. And I was like, that's my kind of chick. And I'm going to have to,
She's way tougher than me.
I'm going to have to be friends with her.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So you were raised in the hunting. You were raised in East Texas, the typical, you know, kind of country life. And that's just what you did. And then what made the transition where you wanted to make it? I guess I should say, did you go to college?
Nope. No, I went into the trades, and I knew college wasn't going to be for me. My mom really wanted me to go.
Yeah.
It just wasn't my thing, you know. I was like, I wanted to make money, like right then.
Yeah.
You know. So
you were ahead of your time.
Because
I was a big college proponent until about 5 years ago, and I'm like, why? Why would you go to that indoctrination?
Man, unless you're getting unless you're going for something super specialized, or you just simply want the college experience and you can afford it, then I don't really see a point in it. But you know, and I've seen that firsthand in the business that I'm in right now. I mean, you try to get a plumber, you try to get a refrigeration tech, I mean, like, you know, I'm in the restaurant business and we'll talk about that in a minute, but I mean, they're much more expensive than they used to be. They're harder to come by. You know, people just aren't, you know, but now we're seeing this kind of resurgence, you know, in the trades. But yeah, I grew up around guns. I made the transition into kind of a self-defense nature on it because I had a stalker in my early 20s, and it made me think about, look, I got a rifle and a shotgun at my house. I mean, that's what I grew up. I grew up on the long gun platform. But what am I going to do if I'm not at home and this dude decides to roll up on me and snatch me up? Like this, it was a real fear, you know, that I had. And I think that, you know, no, we can go down different rabbit holes because I think that there are people that, you know, are in these kinds of situations that either, you know, will pick at it, you know, and like bring it upon themselves to a degree.
True.
But that wasn't really.
Which today you go to New York City in the middle of the day, or Chicago, you're bringing it upon yourself, unfortunately.
Right. But that really, you know, I legit had a stalker, and I was like, really, it made me kind of critically think about, you know, like what does my safety mean to me?
Right.
And how am I going to build boundaries around that? And so I started to get into the handgun game, took some classes, fell in love with it, you know, and then I would just, you know, I'd go to the gun range by myself and people would see it. You know, my girlfriends would be like, take me with you. And my friends' moms were like, I don't know how to shoot a gun. And, you know, it just kind of became, you know, it kind of snowballed into this, you know, kind of side hustle business where I would just teach people intro to handgun. I didn't know how to teach anything else. Yeah. You know, at the time I was in my 20s, and now, you know, it made me want to go, you know, like I really want to get, you know, want to dig into this. And so, you know, took draw from holster classes, took, you know, things like intuitive defensive shooting, where you really start to understand the ballistics behind things too, you know, because a lot of people don't spend time on that. They don't really learn, you know, ballistically what, you know, ammunition is capable of. And we see that a lot in politics. We see a lot of politicians going, well, the 223 round will just vaporize a human. Dude, fuck you.
That wasn't politicians. That was our president. Let's be clear.
Stop. You know, and that's not true. And I find myself, if I'm rolling through Twitter or scrolling through Instagram and I see some of these politicians and they talk about guns, and almost every time I can go, that's not how it works, and be right. Yeah. You know? So that was kind of the transition, was, you know, just I had my own sort of scary moment where I was like, I don't really know if, you know, I'm going to be attacked in public or even at my house, you know, like I don't know what this guy's capable of, and I need to be, and, you know, realistically, if we talk about the value of time, you know, and you can talk about that in a myriad of different ways, but in this particular instance, you know, the value of time is, if he shows up at my house, or if he goes to the restaurant that I'm at, or if he catches me at the grocery store, who's going to help me? And if I call for the people who are supposed to help me, law enforcement, how long is it going to take him to get here?
It's always a delay.
You know, and so that's really kind of when I started to think about, you know, like what's realistic about, you know, self-defense, and what's kind of, you know, blown out of proportion.
Right. And there was the time, I think it was probably like 80s, early 90s, where it was the self-defense for females movement, not including firearms. It was more like take take taekwondo, take judo. And
I call that the rape whistle movement.
Yeah, because that's not, no,
and I'm not doing that.
I'm not going to lie, there is, I think, again, another reference to Kelly, she was talking about this guy that kind of came up on her. He's like, he was tiny, I could have taken him. I'm like, I don't think you could have. Like, no matter what your training is, there is very few things a woman can learn. Like they used to do the whole pull and then the poke in the eyes and the grabbing the balls. I'm like, you got to be very precise and you got to be a little bit lucky because most guys will be able to overtake you. But we can't.
It's not even that. It's really, well, yes, but it's not really even that. I think a lot of women don't realize pain. Mm-hmm. Like they don't understand. They've never been put in a position where they've had to take pain. Right. So, I mean, I was an MMA fighter for 6 years, you know, like I did
not know that.
I never went pro, you know, never really wanted to. It started out as just a really cool workout that some buddy of mine drugged me to. Right. And I was like, this is awesome. And so, you know, I mean, I did mixed martial arts.
Hope you got better as a fighter if he drugged you there.
For yeah. But when you do that and you start sparring with people and you actually commit to the fight, you know, I've been hit in the face a few times. I've been kicked in the shin. I've been kicked in the thigh. That shit hurts. Mm-hmm. P.S.
Yeah.
You know, I've been in chokeholds. I mean, like I've felt what it's like to know that the air is leaving your body.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, so to your point, I when I hear women say things like that, I just kind of I roll my eyes a little bit because not that I'm guaranteed the win. Because I've experienced it. Not that I think I could take somebody that's, you know, a lot bigger than me or even my size. It's just, I know what that feels like. And I feel like I have a better chance because I've had that experience, right? And so women who want to get into this game are going to have to understand that you're going to have to feel pain. And you got to overcome that part.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was talking about. So it's on top of it. Yes, if a woman gets lucky, if that timing is perfect where they grab the balls right at the right time or whatever it is, but they have to also get past that first hit or the first drag down. You have to act under pressure and pain, and that's just, it's different for a woman. No, if I'm
Well, it is. And the people that are doing this to you, why are they doing it to you?
Yeah.
They felt pain.
Right.
Like you could probably bet your next paycheck that a guy that's going to attack you has a bad background, a terrible childhood, abuse, like people that come, you know, it's not often that people that come from good households end up like that.
Yeah.
You know, and so you have to think about the fact, you know, they've been there too. And so how much pain can they take?
Right.
So that's really kind of what it comes down to is, you know, are you willing to fight to the death?
Yeah, you have to, you have to keep going. You have to keep going.
You know?
Go for it. And then with a gun, obviously, that's a game changer in terms of that kind of firearm safety. And the key is also not being able to shoot it, but handle it as well.
Yeah, people talk a lot of shit. They talk a lot of shit about what they think they can do. There's a lot of preconceived notions about what people think that they would do in these particular situations of duress. I wrote a class about it.
Yeah.
Called the what if scenarios. And I put people in these situations, these actual situations. And we use airsoft pistols, you know, but I want you to know what it feels like to have to pull the trigger on somebody too. And so it's about as real as it's going to get, you know, but but the people that come and take this class, I mean, this isn't 50 people taking this class. It's like 3, you know, because we're really fighting with each other, you know, in a somewhat safe way, but you're going to feel pain, you know, you're going to have to pull this gun on somebody. You're going to have to pull the trigger and your body will never go where your mind has never been. And so if you're not going to expose yourself to this scenario-based training, how do you know what you do? Yeah. How do you know the value of time? And in this particular case, when we talk about value of time, we're talking about how long is it going to take you to draw your gun from your holster? How long is it going to take you to react to something that's surprising to you, right? Like I do a quick scenario of, you know, I have a baby doll and I put it in a papoose on the mom, right? And then I'm like, hey, like, so we're going to pretend like you're leaving the grocery store and you're walking to your car. That's all you need to know. And then I literally roll up in the middle of the parking lot and I snatch her kid by the head out of the papoose and start running. And you know what she does?
Freezes.
Yeah. And I'm like, so all this water cooler talk about what a big ass, badass mama bear you are just went right out the fucking window.
Yeah.
Because you're not.
Right.
You just think you are. And once again, you have never even explored this possibility in your mind that someone would actually do this, but they could. And so now you have to explore it and go, look, you have to be able to analyze it like that. What questions are there to ask at this point? Yeah. There are no questions. Why would someone come and snatch your kid off your body? That's the part where you kill someone.
Out of the papoose.
Out of the papoose. There are no questions to ask.
Why do I love that word so much? That's one of those words that just makes me laugh when you say papoose.
Papoose.
Yeah, yeah.
But those are the conversations that are hardest to have, especially with women, because we're such emotional creatures. That it's really tough because sometimes we do have to normalize having conversations about what we would kill people over. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard thing to say, but it's true because you see this a lot on Twitter where, if I were to tweet, hey, you break in my house, I'm probably going to shoot you. Like, I'm probably going to kill you. And then they're like, oh my God, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you have a conversation with them about why they want to be in your house? And like, what do they want? And I'm like, because I'm not a mind reader. Yeah. Like, so the general population needs to understand that if you come into my house without permission, I'm not going to ask you any questions.
There's no questions at that point.
I'm going to shoot you.
Yeah.
And we have to normalize that conversation because we denormalized it.
Yeah. And I think the mental preparation, that's why it's good to take classes like this. Putting yourself in that situation is very important. And we're going to, right after this ad break, I wasn't going to bring up Uvalde, but the whole situation with the
I want to talk about
wife,
that.
We could talk Uvalde. And I think that it's not just women. People shut down in a state of an emergency. And also we'll talk about the Good Samaritan with a gun as well. I know you posted about that. That's a badass story. The kid in Indiana. What's his name? Elijah? Eli?
We'll call him Eli because his first name's kind of weird.
It's
spelled weird. Yeah. I think his last name is Dickon.
Dickens, yes. Like the cider company. Yeah. Ever heard that? No. Okay. All right. First sponsorship. I want to thank, of course, one of our patriotic sponsors. Tony Van Schoik was one of the first guests on the show. Made over $10 million in commissions in her career, and she was also one of the founders of Monate. Monate is a network marketing company, but they also have some of the best, if not the best products that you can possibly get on the market. I did the research and actually learned how to use the products that I've been getting, and my hair is actually thicker and fuller and silkier at the same time. So they've got stuff for men and women, mostly for women in terms of finding fine hair, thick hair, thin hair. All of it is vegan, cruelty-free. And by that natural side, I've heard a lot of the hair care specialists say once they used to hear that, they would actually stay away because it wasn't very good products. And they started using these for color, etc. Extensions as well. It sounds really weird as a dude. We're talking about guns. And I'm like, oh, extensions and all this fun stuff with the hair. The Rejuvenique I've been using actually on my face. And if I don't look younger on this episode, you need to check your eyes. But either way, if you want to become a market partner or just buy some of these products that are used in small doses, I've learned as well, go to bluntforce.mymonate.com. Again, that's bluntforce.mymonate.com. Okay. Let's talk. It's been a while, and I'm sure if this is coming out in a couple weeks, it's been a while since Uvalde, but I think that's going to be a story that we're going to be talking about for a very, very long time. I started out, of course, very mad at the police officers, and I think that I'm still mad in some ways. I think there was a lot of mistakes made. I do think Officer Tatum did a great job on breaking down why to not condemn all the police officers.
I watched it.
Yeah, it is a shitty situation. Now, the question I'm going to bring up, because we were talking about freezing before, is the example of, and Officer Mattingly and I talked about this too, the cop whose wife had texted him that she had just been shot or was dying or something along the lines, and they held him back and they asked him to go outside. What were your thoughts about that whole thing?
You know, that's a tough one because I think that... I watched that part of the video, and I think he went a little too willingly.
Yeah.
But there's also, there are protocols about being too close, from a familial standpoint, especially to a situation like that. I think my thought on it is that I don't know that I have a valid opinion on that particular part of it. Mm-hmm. I've never been in that position.
Yeah, I think it's a shocking. It's kind of like what you said though. If you're not prepared for something in your brain, and I know it's a little different saying, are you prepared to get your child back from a papoose? What were you going to do? This is one of those ones. As a cop, you kind of have to put yourself through that. But they did do the right thing. If he was storming through the door, they still should have held him back because it would have been a bad situation. His willingness to go shows that he was completely frozen. But you do have obviously some thoughts on the overriding thing with Uvalde. So what's your thoughts on Uvalde across the board? Police all the way to the shooter.
I watched several people break it down. Jocko.
Yeah.
I listened to his podcast on it, thought it was very informative. I mean, he went minute by minute, basically. Yeah. I watched your interview with Officer Tatum, and I think that in this situation and many other situations like it, I think it gets overly complicated. I think sometimes there are too many details, or we focus on too many details. And when it comes to kids, like, so you have to think about it like this, because I know that there was some discussion on whether or not these kids were being held hostage and, all of this. I get strategy and SOPs and protocols when it comes to grown-ups, right? Grown-up hostage situations, mass shooting situations where it's all adults that are in this, place, okay? I get that to a point, okay? It all goes out the window when it's rooms full of kids. And that was the problem that I had with this, is you had the manpower. I think I counted 15 or 16 men.
They definitely had the manpower.
You had the gear. You had ballistic shields. You had vests. You had guns.
What were you missing out of that?
Okay.
You're missing one thing. A way to get in the classroom.
How did they not have a way to get in the classroom?
So they could have opened the door. From what we hear, they could have just opened it. However, you forget this because it's been a while. I'm about to be 40, you're 40. We forgot what school doors are like. School doors are on lockdown. They are completely shut and they're steel reinforced. So there is not a single battering ram that would have got in. So if you're in a city, if it happens in Dallas, you can have a fire, there's a name for it, but it's a flash. An explosive that'll take out the door. But without that, you actually can't get in those doors. They open out and they're steel reinforced if they are locked, which they'll never know if it was locked because they use the key. So you don't know. Somebody said it was unlocked, but that could have been a rumor. So in order to get in that way, you actually needed an explosive.
No windows.
So the outside windows were actually covered. There was blinds. So again, could have gone through the windows.
But the windows can't be broken. They're bulletproof.
So they're not bulletproof, but if there is an assumption that there could be children in there, then you're shooting into a blind room where there's kids.
No, I'm not talking about shooting. I'm talking about break the window. I'm talking about take the buttstock of a rifle, break the window, take cover. Break the window, take cover, right? This, in my mind, this causes a distraction, makes the shooter want to come after you, leave the babies alone. Isn't that what we'd rather? Okay?
Possible.
So to me, in my head, I just really feel like there was a way to get in there. I think that way would put lives at risk, police lives at risk. And I feel like that should have been the alternative. I think that should have been what happened was we got to figure out a way to get in this room instead of standing in the goddamn hallway.
And I agree with that. I think that the amount of time taken was absolutely absurd.
That's the part that I don't like. Now, what I will tell you is the big controversial discussion that came out of Uvalde that has come out after almost every school shooting has been, do we arm teachers? Okay. I am a big proponent of this because I think that firearms training and self-defense training promotes accountability. It promotes structure. It promotes discipline. And I don't think there's anything wrong with any of these things. And I got the really cool opportunity to go back and testify before the school board at my alma mater high school when they were considering arming teachers, and they went through with it.
Yeah.
And I loved the I didn't even do the training. Like, they went somewhere else to do the training, and I didn't have the proper certification at the time. And I knew that I wasn't going to do the training, but I loved being able to go, like, I looked at people that I went, the people that are running the school board at my high school now are people I went to high school with.
Oh, that's funny.
And so we got to have, I know. So we got to have this really cool discussion. And if you look at, Argyle ISD here in the DFW area is a prime example of why this works.
Yeah.
And so this idea of an assault weapons ban, which assault weapons it's not even a name for anything, right? It's a scary term, right? It doesn't exist. But when we talk about, we just want to ban this kind of gun, right? Yeah. When you look at the statistics, it's not even the kind of gun that's normally used in these kinds of things.
This is an assault glass, by the way.
Exactly.
Yeah. If it's used properly, assault glass.
We have to. So if we end up with an assault weapons ban, right? So it passed the House, got to go through the Senate. If this happens, we won't know or have any data on the effects of it for some time.
Right.
If we move into a situation where we go to schools and we say to teachers, if you want to do this, and if you can pass the proper checks and you can pass the proper classes, we're going to have you, if you want to do this, like, it's all should be voluntary. We're going to let you carry a gun at school to protect kids. We would have data on this almost immediately.
Right.
Because we would be able to see in the next year
in real time
how many school shootings happened and how many didn't, and what were the results of those. So I think that speaks to what the course of action should be to protect kids. And I think that, and I've done numerous panels on this. It always comes back to the same thing is, we don't want guns in schools. Well, too fucking bad.
At this point,
they're coming there. They're coming there.
Yeah. So it's one of the, I don't want Billy to be traumatized by seeing, these automatic weapons from the armed guard, whether it's a teacher or whatever. It's silly at this point. If you really worry, then you go, you know what? They're seeing it on TV. For guys, you've bought little Billy.
You're already
SOCOM, whatever the hell, 37. You might as well let him actually see it so he's safe at school. I like the idea, and I know some vets are probably not equipped to be around kids with guns mentally, but there are many, many out there that are looking for purpose and jobs. And although we spend way too much damn money in Ukraine right now, it'd be great to maybe fortify.
How do we know? I'm going to counter that.
Okay.
How do we know that this wouldn't be the ideal therapy that these vets need?
It's true.
How do we...
I don't disagree that even... So I'm not saying PTSD is a rule out. I'm saying there is some that are probably not ready to do something like that.
Oh, sure. But what I'm saying is, how do we know that having that kind of purpose, a protection purpose...
would be a game changer.
Would be a game changer for them. How do we know that being around children and being able to... just be around the innocence of kids and teach them and be somebody that they can trust to protect them. How do we know that isn't the therapy
what they're looking for? And it would have impact on the kids because they're seeing something with authority. They're seeing, they're going to have respect for military.
No, but they're also seeing a hero.
True.
This is the kind of people that, kids can look up to.
Yeah.
But they say the same thing about domestic violence survivors. I get this all the time with my nonprofit. I have a nonprofit called WADE, which is the Women's Awareness and Defense Endeavor. And it's a small thing. I'm a woman show in it. But I take women who have emancipated themselves out of these violent relationships, and I teach them how to take care of themselves and their kids because they, it's the statistics crazy. It's like 85% of domestic violence victims go back to their abuser. Why? That's the question that you have to ask is why. And a big reason for that is because they don't feel confident enough to live life on their own. They haven't had access to money. A lot of them don't even have cars. A lot of them don't have jobs, right? They're basically being held hostage in their own life. And when you teach them that not only can you live on your own, not only can you make your own money, not only can you pick out your own clothes, not only can you feed your own children, you can also protect yourself against people who would want to harm you. This is a very real, attainable goal. It's an absolute game changer. So out of the women, I think I've been doing this since 2018 or 19, and I average about 18 to 20 women a year. So you take 4 years times 18 women, okay? How many?
Do you want Democratic math or do you want?
How do you just whatever?
Well,
the
if
math
I was
in your
a Democrat,
head, right?
depending on what it was,
for,
let's just say
so
742.
That's what, almost 60 women, I guess.
It's more. It's you said 4 years.
Yeah,
it's more than that. So it's what would that be? 72. 72.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many do you think have gone back to their abuser?
Out of the 72, taking your class,
going through
working
Wade.
with you,
going through Wade.
Ooh, going through Wade.
Because they go through a whole academy of situational awareness, non-lethal weapons, guns if they want to.
One. Do we need to call her? Should we talk to her?
Okay.
Did he change?
I'm still trying.
Still working on it. All right.
But here that's the thing, is that we're missing the confidence part of it to be able to self-preserve, to be able to protect oneself. And so people tell me all the time, they're like, Jerah, oh my God, we cannot put guns in the hands of domestic violence survivors. Yes, we can. We just have to couple it with the other things that they need, okay? They need counseling. They need therapy. They need to understand this trauma. They need to understand that it's not their life. It's just something that happened to them. They need to understand all of these things. I'm not just going to take somebody that's 3 days fresh out of a violent relationship and go, here's a gun, sis.
Yeah.
Why would I do that?
Yeah, and you said something interesting. So I'm a performance coach in terms of mindset. And I think that, and this is the unfortunate thing, and some people are going to call me out for probably sounding like a misogynist asshole on this one, but I'm going to take what you said and what I hear, which is, yes, they've been controlled for too long. They've been made to believe that they can't do anything. Or they can't take responsibility over their own life. They have to realize that that's a choice. It's as much as, yes, it's not a choice to get hurt or get beat or anything like that, but to actually change your life becomes a choice. And if you choose to stay with that person, you've chosen to be abused at this point. It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility to get out of it.
You're 100% right. And there are a lot of people that would buck against that and they would call that victim blaming, but that's actually true. And it's Gavin DeBecker says that in his book, The Gift of Fear, which is, by the way, the best situational awareness book, arguably, that's ever been written. And I recommend it to all of my students. And he says it in when he really gets into the domestic violence chapter of it. And he says, if somebody hits you once, you're a victim. If you let them hit you twice, you're a willing participant. Mm-hmm. It's truth, right? Yeah. It's the same thing when we tell women, when we talk about situational awareness and when we talk about the things that might make you a target, like dressing provocatively, being too drunk in public, right? And then women say, well, I should be able to do that and be safe. Well, sure, nobody's arguing about that, but what we're saying is you're putting yourself in a position where people can take advantage of you more easily. Hey, if you want to, do you, sis? I'm still gonna be on your side if you get raped.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say,
we're not going to say it wasn't that guy's fault, but and again, as you know, I have a daughter, like she's 6, but at one point in her life, like let's try to teach them to try to make a decision that's going to set themselves up for success. As a man, maybe I don't have that problem, but I do have other problems. I have to set myself up for success, whether it's work or business or whatever it might be, or friendship. I mean, easy way to set yourself up for friendship these days is not tell people you're a conservative Republican.
You have actually better friends when you do that.
I have less, but better. It's
exactly
a
quality, not quantity.
Over quantity. Absolutely. We're gonna do. You know what? Let's real quick because I want to break down that shooter before we get into shot seat. Where are you at on your drink? Out of curiosity.
Do I need to finish it?
Well, we will because we'll try it with this one. I think you're gonna be. I'm sad they haven't decided to sponsor because this is delicious. Sweet.
Ketchup. Come on, man.
Okay, so real quick, let's do this, then we'll do shot seat. Shooter in Indiana. I saw you talk about it. Eli Dickens. Mm-hmm. How the hell did he do that?
It's not as hard as you think. It's really not.
15. So do you know the piece by piece, like how timing worked? How fast it all happened?
Yeah, 15 seconds.
15 seconds. So I'm gonna give the breakdown, and then you're gonna explain how somebody's brain can work that fast.
And he made like what, 8 out of 10?
8 out of 10 from 40 yards. So not 40 feet, 40 yards to start. I don't know. They said he closed.
We didn't have camera footage on this, did we?
No, but they have like they did. So I think it was 40. So this is what I've after researching because I'm like there's no way a sharpshooter could do what this guy did with a handgun. okay, maybe, but with a handgun, it's hard. A Glock. I'm assuming it was a 9 because of 40 or 44. It would have had, or 45, too much kickback. So I'm thinking it's a 9. So 15 seconds from the shooter in the bathroom at the mall, which I still believe was, if I get into the rabbit hole of conspiracies, I'm a believer that this guy was programmed to do this because he dropped his phone in the toilet so that it wasn't found. This guy's got no previous, according to his family, like history like this, and his laptop was in the oven. Like, something's weird. So he comes out. He had just put together a AR. He comes out, and he, in a matter of 15 seconds, kills 3, shoots 2, at which point Eli engages the shooter. Supposedly, somebody saw him lean his shoulder up against a wall to stabilize himself.
Sure.
And shot undetermined amount of times, total of 10, moved in on the shooter, waved people behind, and told people to get away while shooting, and then took down the shooter. 8 out of 10 shots. First shot was from 40 feet to neutralize the threat. 40 yards.
Feet or 40 yards?
40 yards. That's what I've read, and I kept trying to check it. It still says 40 yards.
So, value of time, okay? So, the shooter comes out and starts shooting. Immediately, that's going to alert you that something's wrong, okay? So, we'll start from there. So I'm gonna break it down. I'm gonna tell you what I'm doing, and you're gonna do the count. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi.
Okay.
That's how I want you to count it out.
Okay, ready?
Ready, go.
Mississippi, 2 Mississippi.
I identify the shooter.
3 Mississippi.
I pull.
4 Mississippi.
I stabilize.
5 Mississippi.
Bam.
6
Bam.
Mississippi.
Bam.
7 Mississippi.
Bam.
8 Mississippi.
Bam.
9
Bam.
Mississippi.
Bam.
10.
Bam. Bam.
So I'm at 10 seconds, but he started his first shot, I think, at 15.
Okay.
So that's, I mean, even I get it.
The value of time is there. It's not going as quickly as you think it is. Okay? And this is once again the preconceived notion that everybody has. Okay, is how much time do you have? Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's not. Okay? So he had the value of being that far away, right? That he wasn't going to be the immediate target. Target's acquired, Target doesn't see him. He's killing the people around him. Now, understand, I'm theorizing because we don't have any camera footage, okay? So he's got the tactical advantage on this guy. If he can, and he may not have even needed to stabilize himself against a pole, okay?
That's a long shot. Like, that is also, like, okay, so take the time. You've broken it down. Yeah, 1, 2 is more than you think. But to even like realize he had to have also been in the right place. Now, also, you have to also think about how people react to things like that. Okay, they run away. Yeah. Or they get down. Yeah. So target acquisition. One guy. One guy. Yeah, that's valid. So last thing on that is of course you've got our favorite people to laugh at, The View, saying, "But it was a gun-free zone." Did you see that clip? By policy and not law. Right, because but what if it was 2 weeks earlier, it would have been a situation because they did not have constitutional carry. Yeah, and guess what? I would have carried anyway. Well, 100%. But what do you think who knows, ACL? Do you think somebody would have came after him and sued him for saving people's lives? 100%. How fucked up is that? Okay. No, well, let me tell you. Is that your phone? Let me tell you why it's not. Oh, sorry. Let me tell you why it's not. Yours or mine? No, I don't think it's mine. I don't think it's mine. Okay, okay. Let me tell you why. So, pleasant tone. Yeah, I think it's, yeah, do we think it's fucked up? Okay, sure. But you also have to understand that when we make a law and it's not, and people don't abide by it, there's got to be a punishment for that, right? Right. I think the same thing would have happened in Texas, right? If you're carrying in a 3006 or 3007, depending on how you're carrying, yeah, I mean, somebody's going to bring charges up against you because you broke a law. Right. Now, the severity of it depends on the belief system of the people that are pressing charges against you. Because if we didn't press charges against people who broke the law, what's the point of the law? Yeah. Okay. So I think if that would have happened in Texas, and Texas wasn't constitutional carry, and he was, but also you have to think about this though. It depends on the legality of the sign. Right. Okay. So if in Texas, if a mall says, we don't want you to carry your guns here, it doesn't matter. It's not lawful. Right. They have to post the exact legal signage that has a lawful bearing. Right. Whatever it actually is. 100%. So you have to think through that.
But I think that if that happened in Texas and it was a legally binding sign, I think that that kid would have gotten probation at worst. And I think it would have implemented a change in law.
Maybe.
And then I think he would have had the opportunity to maybe expunge that.
Based on the change in law.
Based on the change in law. And I think that's how the justice system is supposed to work.
It's actually an interesting way of looking at it. It's a good way to look at it. Let's go ahead and do shot seat.
Okay.
You're going to be pleasantly surprised about this one.
Okay. It's called what now?
Bond Breaker.
Snow River Blend.
Slow River Blend.
Slow? Okay, yeah. I'm sorry.
I'm glad you're the shooter with those glasses. I can't even see what the bottle
You had the bottle turned.
Whatever.
Don't get it.
So what this is, even though we're taking a shot, this is the Artist Labs Don't Get the Shot seat. Did you get the shot?
I did not. I'm pure blood.
Same here. Yeah. I love that people are not calling it that. It's hilarious. What I like to call it is just people that ended up being right. Call me crazy on that one. So we're going to talk about Artist Labs at the end, but let's get into shot seat real quick. Answer the questions as quick as you can. Just top of the head. Not too much thinking. If it's a hard question, feel free to take a drink. We take a drink at the beginning. I want to see if you like this stuff. Cheers. Too sweet for you?
Got a little sweet at the end.
Yeah. I like it though. It doesn't have
it's light.
Yeah. I'm not as I said, not a manly drinker, so I kind of like the smoothness and the notes, light. The floral notes. It's actually kind of like a lemony orange blend to it.
That's what I'm thinking. I was feeling more orange.
Yeah.
At the end, I think.
Lemon peel, orange
I like
peel.
it.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty good. Randy Rogers, I just really think you guys should just help sponsor this.
What is this?
It's his brand.
It's Randy Rogers?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Anyways,
all the country guys are getting into the bourbon making.
Even
now.
Prather's got his own whiskey now. Yeah.
And all the sports guys.
Yeah. Well, they've got tequila.
Sweetens Cove is Peyton's brand, Peyton Manning's brand.
And then you've got Terra Lingua from The Rock. I mean, he's not an athlete, but he's superhuman in his own way politically. Okay. What was your first ever gun?
PK 380.
PK 380. Okay. What is your favorite thing to shoot?
Meaning animals or people or. Like, what do you mean?
There was
targets, animals, people.
What is your favorite? What is your favorite gun to shoot, and what is your favorite thing to do in shooting?
Oh,
Is it cool, fun target shooting? Is there a certain animal you like to hunt? Hopefully, it's not human.
No, I love doing DFH drills, draw from holster drills. I love doing move and shoot stuff.
Okay,
all the time. Is that
that little?
It's not my phone.
What is it?
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Is it your alarm going off?
No, I don't have an alarm. I have nothing. Okay. Hold on.
Where is that coming from?
Hold on. I don't know.
Pause.
Pause.
I keep thinking. I make you bet your watch is going. Do you own a watch?
No.
This is why we can't.
My iPad. I am so sorry. I didn't know that.
How about you clear the chamber on that iPad? I'm losing my mind. I'm like, how is she stone cold not paying attention to this sound? Joe's over there checking everything that he owns. He's like, this can't be anything of mine.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
It's off. I just
turned it off. Yeah. No, that was funny. I'm like, I know I hear something. Biggest issue facing. Oh wait, did you already say what you like to? Oh yeah, draw from holster.
Yeah, draw from holster.
What do you like to hunt the most? Do you hunt pretty regularly?
Yeah, man, dude, I love I'm a big bird hunter. I like the moving target, but pigs are fun.
Yeah.
I like big game too. It's just I'm not a big fan of sitting in the blind for 5 hours. Like I want the action, but I'll do it.
Shemaine hit, and her show tonight is when it's coming out. She killed a zebra with a bow and arrow single shot. Fed the whole tribe, just to be very clear. But
oh yeah.
I
mean,
you gotta eat it.
We could do a whole another episode on hunting and conservation and why PETA is stupid.
I just killed my first animal this year. Again, I was raised very different, but I killed a deer, 2 hogs, first 3 for 3. 3 for 3. And my heart rate, I checked my iPhone, didn't even go up. I went up from 60 because I saw my girlfriend's sister's husband kill his first turkey, and I was sitting in the blind for it. And yeah, I know, in the blind for a turkey, he killed it with a rifle. Regardless, he was just
You're such a professional.
Things you could do in Texas. It was 100 yards when he hit it, but no, he was like his heart was beating through his chest. Sorry, Spicy. Sorry to call you out, Spence. But I mean, I'm like, I wonder if that's going to have that effect. And it was just, got him. stone cold.
Stone cold.
Which is the way that I would like to think in the instance of needing to, I even had to, you're going to laugh, I had to Google, this is the longest shot seat ever. I had to Google how to make sure to use my gun correctly because I hadn't shot the rifle since I bought it. I know, I'm less of a man. But when I got it, I was all 3 shots grouped 150 yards within 2 inches. So I can shoot, I never wasn't raised around guns, so I don't know how to use a lot of the, moving on.
It's a perishable skill. Just don't forget that.
It's a what?
It's a perishable skill.
Yeah, it's true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to keep doing it. What is the biggest issue facing America?
Right now, I think it's guns. I really do. I think it's guns. I think it's people understanding the nomenclature behind it. Mm-hmm. I think that we need to normalize gun education. We were founded on the gun. I'm tired of British people going, we don't have guns. Well, sorry about your bad luck. We do. And we're not going backwards.
The thing is, we can't get rid of them. A perfect utopia, if nobody had guns and we didn't have to worry about our shitty government, cool. But it's an impossibility to where we are. Let's be practical.
It's an impossibility. And getting women to understand these things, and I guess I just don't understand the logic behind some of the ways that women think, because if you really like dive into it, women spend more time around children than anybody else. Right? You got single moms, you got even in the nuclear family, right? Statistically, women spend more time around children. And so therefore,
women spend as much time around children as Joe Biden wishes he spent around.
It's gross. It's gross, but it's true.
Sure.
And I think that statistically, as a byproduct, women are typically more responsible for the physical protection of children, and you have to be able to do it. Yeah. And if you can't,
what happens if somebody tries to steal the kid from the pupusa?
The papoose.
The papoose. Pupusa is a Salvadorian meal, whatever. Craziest lie about firearms.
That the .223 round can vaporize a human. I mean, this literally just came out from some retarded rep. I said that. Oh my God.
It happens.
This literally just came. I don't even care if you edit that out.
R. I don't usually edit anything.
Okay.
We'll see. Do you want me to?
No.
Okay.
I don't even care.
Okay.
I really don't. Because
Chad Prather has a whole thing. He's like, I said it. I said the word retarded.
I did. I said it. I know it's faux pas, but this guy really is like wrong in the head about all of that information.
Yeah, which the definition of retard is the not. We're gonna move on because that's a tough one. But yeah,
it's a tough one. Yeah. But I said it. I own it. And and I do think that about him because the information's blatantly false, and I think he's irresponsible for sharing it on such a big platform and not fact checking himself.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I mean, across the board, some of the messaging has been insane. Who is your favorite conservative influencer? Does that mean you're not answering it?
I don't know that I have a favorite. I get weird about influencers, man.
What about, personalities? Influencers, kind of a crappy word. So like the personalities, ones that you maybe watch their shows.
I like Candace Owens' personality.
Okay.
I don't always agree with her, but I like her personality.
I like her 90% of it. I think she did terrible in the Trump interview that I wanted her to push a lot further.
Yeah.
But I like her typically.
But I actually don't know if I have it. I think that influencers are compromised to a degree. They're beholden to their sponsors. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I think if I ever did this, if I ever had a podcast, I wouldn't have any sponsors.
Yeah.
I want to say what I want to say.
I wish I was rich too, dick.
Yeah.
Cool. But I'm just going to have my own restaurant and bring people whiskey and be like, hey, if I were you, I would just, gut it myself.
Well,
or you could be a Patreon at patreon.com/bluntforcediscussion. Or you could check out our gear at awakenotwokestore.com. You can use Awake for 15% off.
There's literally a parking lot right over there if you want to go hash it out that way.
Oh, shit. All right. So what was the last thing? You consider yourself actually, I got 2 more. I added some as we went. Can you, since you're a cigar aficionado, can you tell the difference? If I were to put a cigar in your mouth, and I like cigars, but can you tell the difference between a Cuban and a good Dominican?
No.
That's an honest answer. there's so many guys that would be like, of course I can.
They're lying to you.
Okay, that's what I figured. Last question. Favorite now that I know that you're kind of Italian, what's your favorite mob movie?
Well, honestly, my favorite mob movie is True Romance.
Okay.
It's a gangster flick of all gangster flicks, in my opinion. Now, people can go with Goodfellas, people can go with The Godfathers and all of this, even The Departed. I hear a lot of people say The Departed, but I'm telling you, if you haven't seen True Romance, it's a cult classic written by Quentin Tarantino, came out in the 90s, has an all-star cast, and I just feel like it's very underrated.
Fair enough. There it is. That was Shot Seats, brought to you by Artis Labs. All right.
I think we're just conditioned.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's one of those weird things. So for Artis Labs, real quick, guys, if you haven't seen me talk about Dr. Artis, he was on the show. One of the YouTubes has pulled that episode down. But there is a lot of different things that he sells. So here's some of it. First off, I always forget to mention, he also does a lot with kids. So he essentially found ways to formulate products that help things that he was going through in his life. So he had kids with acne. So he created a whole acne system out of herbal and natural products. And then he has a whole system of getting rid of, if you had to take the jab, getting it out of the system. He's got a lot of stuff. Email me, and I'll give a little bit of that protocol. If you're symptomatic or non-symptomatic, if you're having long COVID, really weird things he suggests. He doesn't sell this, but nicotine actually helps. Long story. If you don't know who he is, snake venom guy, you'll like it. But make sure you go to the website, go to thedrartisshow.com. My brain stopped working. Where is it? There it is. thedrartisshow.com. Use BFD for 10% off at checkout. My favorite mob movie, besides The Godfathers, are great. Have you ever seen Donnie Brasco?
I have.
That's
very good movie.
My dad was in the mob. So he was the lowest level you could possibly be. So that's in that movie.
You're serious.
Dead serious. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But even my dad's old. My dad passed away. He would be 81, but he would have been Donnie Brasco's character minus being in the FBI. He said that movie was the most realistic movie you could possibly imagine. There's never been a mob movie made more realistic. That was their life. So that's why I like that movie.
Interesting.
Fun fact. You'll watch it maybe a little different next time.
I had a buddy that that used to be a Marine, and he was actually Henry Hill's. He did some personal protection detail for Henry Hill on occasion. So that was Ray Liotta's character from Goodfellas.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
what was Pesci's character? Was it Goodfellas or was it
It's
Casino?
Goodfellas.
No,
okay.
I'm thinking.
Look the clown?
No, I'm thinking Casino. Do I amuse you? Do I make you laugh? No, the Casino character, my dad was actually a maitre d' when he moved out to Vegas. This is a fun fact. We'll end the wee beam and then go to the rest of it after this. So he was a maitre d', seated people, dated a lot of cocktail waitresses in my dad's style. And there was the character that was Pesci came in that movie, this big, super tiny. Ginormous guys with him. And Pesci's like, that's my table. And my dad goes, I already sat somebody there, sir. And the guy's like, I don't effing care. Get out of the table. So my dad goes, he got an attitude back. He's like, I'm from Jersey. I don't give a shit about this guy. Vegas is bullshit. Talk shit. One of the cocktail waitresses that my dad was hooking up with at the time was like, Lenny, you don't know who that is. I don't give a shit. If you don't make this right, you'll be dead by nightfall, period. So my dad had to, eat his shorts and essentially then he found out later who he was. And true story, my dad would have been dead if he did not take care of that situation. We're going to end on WeBeam, and then we're going to come right back. Final words on the if they only get the 58 minutes, the first 58 minutes, where can people find you? And then we'll come back and talk about as much as we can in the next 20 minutes.
Yeah, no problem. You can find me on Instagram at Clearing the Chamber. You can find me on Twitter at Jerah Hutchins, Jerah, Hutchins with an I. You can find me on Facebook at Clearing the Chamber. And then clearingthechamber.com is under construction right now because we're putting new classes up, but it'll be up.
It's always funny to have somebody that's into firearms, a lady, be like, come find me. Be like, no, I'm going to pass. That sounds absolutely dangerous. That sounds like a really bad idea. Yeah. And we'll get into domestic violence next. Guys, if you want to watch the rest of the episode, if it's not playing on WeBeam, first off, thank you for all the people that are watching on that. If you would like to continue to watch, if it doesn't already link it, go to our YouTube, which is very easy, youtube.com/C/blunt force discussion. We'll be right back. Joe is very patient with me. I go a little bit to overtime, and I'm gonna hook Joe up. I keep talking about it, and I keep forgetting, and there's a gift card coming your way, Joe. All right, because I want to make sure I cover a couple things, and I do want to talk about the gun ban. Let's talk about your instance, and I know what you've been doing, obviously, with Wade, but your situation of domestic violence, so we can kind of share that story and see how you can help other people.
Just like the history behind it?
Yeah, what you went through, and then how you have excelled out of it in order to help other people.
I grew up in a violent household. My dad was super violent. Stepdad wasn't too much better. And I had a relationship or two in my early 20s that I don't think was nearly as bad as what I grew up with, but there was some violence and verbal abuse there, and just didn't feel like I wanted to follow in that footstep, that I grew up in. Didn't want to bring kids into that. Didn't want to marry into it. So I think it became very important to me for other women to understand that just because that's been the cycle, right? That maybe like that's been a part of your family, or maybe that's something that your parents, did, like that doesn't have to be your story. So,
does that help when you're working with the people in Wade? And I know that they go through a whole course, but when they know that it's you that has been through it, like if you hadn't been through it, do you think that would be less effective?
Oh, absolutely. It's very similar to when people are coming back from combat, and then they say, well, you have to get this therapy. And then they have these combat veterans talking to therapists that have never seen combat. Mm-hmm. Like, how's that helpful? Yeah. You can play all the psychological games that you want. You can read all the psych books you want. You can go to school for that. But if you've never really seen it, then you're not going to be nearly as effective. And this is the same general concept. I was raped when I was a teenager. So I counsel rape victims too. And
did you know the person?
I did. And that's statistic, right? Like,
that's why
most of the time,
yeah,
it's somebody that, it's somebody that's close to your family. I mean, that's who it was for me. It was somebody that was close to my family. So yeah, I think it's very helpful, when you've been through it and you can speak to it and say, look, there's a way to, I don't know if compartmentalize is the best word to use. But it works. I mean, it's, not necessarily you have to address it and you have to overcome it. But, to me, there was a compartmentalization there where I had to like whisk it away from everything else that was going on inside my brain, especially when it came to dating and relationships. And, it's kind of that adage of, you have to quit cutting the people that never made you bleed, and, I think that's something that is a go-to defense mechanism for rape victims is all men suck, all men are terrible, all men are out to get you, and that's not true. I
mean, it's also common when there is a good relationship as well, where sometimes you
sabotage it
because you're used to the pain.
And I've done that. Yeah. I mean, I've been there and I've done that. I didn't get therapy for it till I was in my 30s. Yeah. Right. So like a lot of people ask me, well, how are you 40 and single? Well, because sometimes I was the problem and then sometimes I wasn't, so you have to have that kind of accountability, right? I think dating is so fucked right now because, like you've got women on social media going, I'm not replaceable, bro. But you're kind of a chode, like you are. I mean, let's be honest. And then you've got men out over here going, I'm so great. You're really not.
I can't stand so I have a single parent mom household, and I hold women to a high esteem. Not that they're perfect, but the guys there's these two black dudes, and they're kind of on that. What is that guy's name that just passed away? Black guy that had the dating show, not the dating show. He'd give advice to black women. He's like, "How about you treat yourself?" Like it's all about body count. Like what's Kevin Samuels?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I never knew his name, but I get it.
I personally can't stand him. Couldn't. But there's two guys they're similar. They've got this whole thing. And they talk about a woman's body count. Yet at the same time, they date a whole bunch of women at the same time. I'm a big believer in not caring about people's past. Like, I just don't. And again,
well, you can't if you want a future.
Right. And I have a far from perfect past, which is the, you know, some of the problems that I go through. But I think it's so weird for a guy to be the man whore and then worry about a woman's body count. And they call that's a whole new terminology, the whole body count thing. I'm like,
well, that's just sexist. I mean, I don't think I've ever encountered that. I don't think I've ever had somebody even ask me, you know, that question. It's just not something that I've ever, you know, I haven't met somebody and dated them and that was important to them. You know, now I have, you know, I have met plenty of people who don't really understand my job.
Yeah.
Or they're emasculated by that. And that can be a typical problem for someone like me, although I don't really get that either. But I think that people tell themselves a lot of lies about themselves and that they're better, you know, than what they are. And they never say, well, you know what, that time the problem was me.
Yeah.
You know, like my first engagement, the problem was not me.
Yeah.
My second engagement, the problem was me.
Yeah.
You know, there was, I mean, don't get me wrong.
And sometimes it could be timing. So it could be you're the problem, they're the problem, or timing, or both, or all the above. It could be a whole bunch of different things at once. Yeah.
I mean, you have to have some kind of, you know, clear self-reflection, you know, on yourself.
Ownership.
Yeah. Ownership of what you've done or what your personality is like or things you need to change.
All right, so I want to have the gun control talk, and then I want to talk about restaurants real fast.
Sure.
And I know you've got a new one opening up. So first, let's talk gun control. What is your beliefs on? I mean, right now, I don't think it passed the House. It's not going to pass the Senate, most likely. The assault rifle ban or whatever it is. First off, tell the people what a semi-automatic weapon is.
Semi-automatic weapon is you pull the trigger, one bullet comes out. A fully auto weapon is you pull the trigger and many pew-pews come out.
Pew-pew.
That's literally the definition. It's very easy.
So a semi-automatic assault rifle is an AR, right?
No, an AR is an AR. There is no such thing as a semi-automatic assault rifle. It's a semi-automatic AR.
Well, what does AR stand for? I'm being facetious.
Armalite.
Armalite rifle. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's not. It doesn't mean automatic rifle.
No.
No. Nowhere does it actually mean that. No. So is there a difference in the semi-automatic version of a AR? Is a semi-automatic AR and is a pistol a semi-automatic?
Yeah.
They're both semi-automatics. Mm-hmm. God, we're teaching the American left so much right now.
Get an intro to firearms lesson right here on the blunt force discussion.
Blunt force discussion. Now, here is my question for you. Do you believe that there is any kind of gun control that should be enacted in the United States of America right now?
Personally, no.
Okay.
But I also see what we already have in place, right? So what we already have in place is like the general populace can't own anything, you know, greater than a 50 BMG. You know, we
BMG
can't
stand for?
Like have tanks. I was trying to think of something really smart assy.
Big manly guns?
Yes, okay. That's what I was trying to think of something really, really smart assy. But anyway, so we have things in place already that I don't really agree with, but we're never going to get rid of. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I don't even necessarily agree with background checks because I think that's a sliding door into firearms registries. But we already have it. Like nobody's going to get rid of background checks. So my thing about gun control is I think gun control is racist, sexist, and elitist. And I think that we can do better than that. And what our government does not want to do is educate. They just want to legislate. And we have to educate before the legislation.
Why would you say it's sexist and racist?
The harder that you make it for me to own a gun, the more sexist you are. Like I'm the weaker sex. We can burn our bras all day long and it doesn't change.
Right.
It doesn't change the biology of us. Okay. We are typically the weaker sex. And so if I don't have access to a force multiplier, a gender equalizer, you are hindering me from living my best life.
Yeah.
My safest life, and I won't have it.
Valid. So then my next question. So as you know, one of the rules that you probably don't like, and I'm actually okay with background checks. I do think it becomes I think it is a sliding door. I will agree with you, but there has to be an adult in the room that can figure out where the line is drawn, in my opinion. When it comes to, there's two things that I would consider. The reason I have trouble considering them is because you give an inch and they take a mile. So I admit that. But in terms of logical things that make sense, firearm, handgun, is 21 in the state of Texas and in a lot of other states. An AR is 18. I am completely fine with moving the AR age to 21 because the pistols are at it. What's the damn difference? What would your argument be for that?
Well, the argument is that they never write the laws clear cut. There's always muddy water there. So for instance, the law now in Texas as it stands is you can't buy a handgun until you're 21, but you can be in possession of it. What's the difference?
Yeah, because criminals really, an 18-year-old, 16-year-old,
you can be, like you could, if your daughter was 17, you could literally hand her a loaded pistol, and go, you can have this in your car. That's not illegal.
The only difference becomes the fact that the top shooter, who I think was very well trained, oddly trained, because I saw the first video that's now been scrubbed, compared to the kid in Uvalde. Both of those kids were able to buy the firearms.
Because they didn't have a record yet. And that's exactly the hole that needs to be poked in the process.
But both were under 21.
So what?
So I'm saying they would have had to have found a parent that would have, they would have had to have found somebody liable, and then somebody, they're dead now. Then somebody at least, top shooter's not dead. I'm sorry. Then somebody would at least be to blame. And I hate that word, to blame, but there needs to be punishment, in my opinion. So to me, just like video games, I'm a believer that video games are, because they're so realistic, I don't think we should ban them. I'm a libertarian in a lot of ways. I don't want the government to ban them, but I do think they have an effect. When you're looking at kids, when you're looking at this 19-year-old in top shooting in the first-person view, it's like he clicked off to the side of the screen. It was creepy. With that said, I just think that making the age a little older specifically for ARs is not a bad idea.
No. I don't think that's right. I think you need to do a better job of educating your children. We've had generations of kids that have grown up that have not gone and shot up schools because this was part of our culture and the education came at an early age.
Agreed.
And like I said before, but that's the thing is we need to revert back to that education piece.
But we can't fix bad parenting. We could talk about it, but we can only, I'm saying,
but we also can't punish an entire society for bad parenting on a few cases, right? But you're not punishing. You have hundreds of millions of gun owners and only 277 active school shooters since 2009?
Agreed. But
so you're punishing millions of people for 277
but you're
people.
Not punishing them because technically.
Yeah, you are.
Technically, as you said, they could still be in possession of them. They just can't buy them.
So how does that fix anything?
And I don't think it does on a macro, because the worst gun crime is illegal firearms in major cities. Guns, pistols, whatever, and it's dumbass criminal shooting.
Which is why background checks are generally stupid, because criminals don't go to gun stores to buy guns.
Agreed, but then you take background checks, you take the age difference, and unfortunately, in these propagated situations, Uvalde, top shooting, the most two recent ones, I think even Parkland, these were young gun owners that purchased the firearms on their own. Who
come from bad homes with no education.
But we can't fix the bad homes. It's America. There's shitty parents.
I get that.
But we could.
Okay, but I'm telling you right now, there's nearly nothing that could have been done except for good parenting. You are not going to, you are someone who is dead set on causing harm. You can't stop it, right? The only thing that can stop it was you go back in time and you love that person better.
I agree.
You parent that person better. The community comes around that person better. This is what I'm saying.
But that's utopian
everybody,
thought.
But I get it. But what you're doing is everybody thinks, oh, I've got to do something. We've got to do something. The something is raising better generations. The something is bringing the education piece into it. The something is caring about and loving each other better, not more legislation. We're not even enforcing the laws we already have on the books, man.
I mean, Hunter Biden shouldn't have a gun. But what we're saying is you're preaching to the choir. Yes, we should have better parents, but we can't control them. So in the least, we go, you know what? You're right. In this case, we can't fix the parents, but if they were over 21, then at least we would know where they got the guns from.
Okay, but so we're just going to, so what does that matter?
Maybe it'd be harder.
So now
we
want to put a blanket.
One step could change things, and I'm not saying that's guaranteed.
It's not, because now what you're doing is you're putting a blanket of control over a society of people who, in general, don't want to be controlled. We want to be a free nation. That's what we were founded on. And so now, little by little by little, you keep chipping away at the thing that keeps us free. 1A and 2A are the things that keep us free. And if you keep chipping away at them, which is what's happening, okay, the revolution is going to come because you're chipping away at a society of people who have been free. We're free Americans. We don't have to do what Britain does. We don't have to do what Venezuela does. We don't have to do what Brazil does. We don't have to do what any of these people do because we're our own sovereign people. And that's what's the problem is now the powers that be are like, we want to keep in control. We want to keep controlling you. And then under the guise of protecting you. And the government can't protect you on a micro level. Sorry. They can't protect you on a micro level. That's not what they were meant to do. They're meant to go, okay, Russia's trying to invade us. Let's stop that shit. But they can't protect you in your everyday life on the street. And so what we have to do is we have to get back to this point where we trust Americans to protect themselves, and we have to permeate an education through society. It was there once.
Yeah.
This wasn't a problem once.
Agreed. But I do think society has changed. I actually like the way you said that, and I do agree. As I've said, I've gotten to the point where I don't think it would work. I'm saying where do we find compromise to shut them?
But this is a cyclical thing. I mean, Yeah,
I mean, the gun ban, the assault, even if they passed it, it didn't work from 93 or 94 to 2000, whenever the hell they stopped it. There was no statistic that showed that it did. You can manipulate data.
They'll tell you it did, but...
What's that?
They'll tell you it did.
Well, you can manipulate the data in both directions, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. Last thing on gun control, real fast. To me, what about a delay, a wait? Saying, I want to go buy a gun... Make it a 3-day waiting period. What's the matter with that?
Why in the hell do you think people are buying guns now?
See, to me, I think anybody buying, and this is, again, one of those areas you give an inch, they take a mile, but in my mind, it's like most people are needing a gun, but you don't hear that. You don't hear a lot of those stories where somebody just went and bought a gun. And to me, though, if I need it today, I'm probably going to be doing something stupid with it.
So I'll tackle this 2 ways really quickly. The first way is I have been preaching to people for years that they need to be proactive in their safety. That means when you become of age, so if you're a gun person, you need to be teaching your kids about guns, responsible gun ownership, responsible mindset, gun safety, etc. Okay, I got that education as a kid. I'm thankful for it. So now bringing it into my adult life, I'm prepared. I know how to handle a gun. I went and bought one, so even if there was a waiting period, I would be okay because I'm being proactive in my safety. I'm not waiting until somebody's attacking me or stalking me. Like, even when someone was stalking me, I had other means of protection. I had guns in my house, right?
Yeah.
So I was moving into this. So you have to be proactive in your safety. You have to, when you become of a legal age to buy a firearm, you probably should. And then you should learn how to use it, and then you should have it just in case something happens, right? You shouldn't wait until the bad things happen, right?
Valid.
Now, the second way that we can do this is we can't hinder the people who weren't privy to this education as a kid. You weren't.
Right.
Right?
True.
So we can't punish those people when they do come across a situation and they go, you know what? I really feel like I need to get a gun because this person is stalking me and this person is, bothering me. Now we can't go, well, now you have to wait 5 days.
Yeah.
Well,
that's valid.
But I'm a law-abiding citizen. I don't have a record. Give me the gun. Right? That's not fair either. So it's about preparedness. It's about teaching people how to be prepared and stay prepared. And sometimes it's not parents that do that.
Last thing I thought about this is what I always say. So and you even said something earlier that made me think of this. When you own a gun, when you have a concealed carry, or now in Texas license to carry, and you go through the class, the percentage of people that commit crimes with that, because they also learn the responsibility of a gun. What if there was government funding, so it's free, but everybody that owns a firearm, and I know this starts to fall under the registry side as well, has to take a course, and it doesn't have to be. It's not that you have to take a course before you have the firearm. You have a year from purchasing the firearm, or 6 months to take a course. What would be the matter with that? It would make you a lot of money.
Well, it was a failed experiment with license to carry. So we had license to carry for over 20 years, and less than 5% of the Texas population even got one. but over 50% of the population owned at least one firearm. So it means that they didn't want to have to pay an unjust tax to the state government.
What if you made it free? What if it was government funded?
Yeah, you can't make it mandatory though. We don't like to be told what to do. But in states where constitutional carry passed, like Texas, okay, other states that preceded us, actually licenses, you saw an uptick in licenses by about 20%. So people go do it if you tell them they don't have to. Like people, because we don't like to be told what to do. We're like teenagers.
Americans are assholes.
Yeah, we just want to. We want to do the responsible thing, but we don't want to have to pay the government.
Nobody puts baby in the corner.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It was a failed experiment.
Last thing on restaurants, because again, this is the entrepreneurial side, and then we'll wrap up real fast. So you own a restaurant now, currently?
I run a restaurant now.
Run a restaurant, and you're opening Hearsay.
I am.
Is that going to be your own?
So, no, I love consulting because I don't have liability in it, but I get to make it successful. So I took over operations for a really nice steak and chop house in Arlington called the Mercury Chop House. It's amazing. The views are incredible. We're on the 9th floor of an office building. So it's just a really unique place. And then the owner of that restaurant is actually the mayor of Arlington, and he took on some partners, and they're repurposing Choctaw Stadium, which used to be the Texas Ranger Stadium. So it's right across the street from Globe Life, which is the new Ranger Stadium. Right. So they decided they wanted to do a restaurant in there, and they're doing bar, shops, restaurants, office space. The XFL is going to play there. So Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who you mentioned before, he came and kind of solidified that deal and moved.
I hate not liking him because I love The Rock.
They moved their headquarters from Orlando to Arlington.
Yeah.
And that's where they're going to play. So we took over a pretty large space in that area, and we're going to do a live music venue, more jazz and blues forward, kind of a NOLA-inspired menu, a little bit more seafood forward, fine dining experience, and then a cigar lounge. So it's not going to be smoking inside, but we're going to purpose this outside area where we can use it all year round. Yeah, and we're going to let people come smoke. And I get to curate the humidor. I get to be like kind of in on the ground level. And that's what I love to do. So my goal 10 years ago was, I was like, I don't want to work for somebody else anymore. I want to take everything I love and I want to turn it into a living. And so now 10 years later at 40, I've done that. So I get to make a living teaching people about cigars and teaching people about bourbon and feeding people. I love food. I'm Sicilian. Hello. Yeah.
So you go table to table and like actually spoon feed guests?
Absolutely. I mean, if that's what it takes.
Full service.
If that's what it takes. And I'm just that kind of girl. I'm just going to help you out any way I can.
Find out the 85-year-old guy's got a private jet and you're like, oh, you want some applesauce? It's on our dessert menu.
Yes. I'm feeding people. I'm smoking with people. I'm drinking with people. And then I'm teaching people how to take care of themselves and be ambassadors for their safety. And I couldn't be happier about it. So awesome. You can find Hearsay. We've got socials. We're not really posting anything yet. We're still kind of finalizing logos and stuff, but it's at Hearsay Arlington on Instagram. And then we've got a Facebook page for it too. I think it's facebook.com/Hearsay Arlington, Texas, or TX.
So political question about restaurants. I mean, I think we're in Texas, so we should be good. Granted, who knows what can happen. And Beto becomes governor. And there's COVID 32. And they shut down the restaurants again. How do you get around that if this happens? What do you tell restaurant owners at this point?
Just don't comply.
Ian Smith treatment?
Yeah, don't comply. Yeah. That's your living. Not everyone is afraid. I think that people were willing to take precautions in the beginning until they figured out that it was a lot of bullshit. Yeah. I stayed home for 3 weeks and I was like, this is dumb. Yeah. Especially when things started to come out about, who it was really affecting, which was sad. I mean, let's not pretend like it didn't hit us in the feels. Yeah. Okay. But we can't shut down an economy. We can't stop living life. As a matter of fact, that's part of living life, is taking care of the people around you and continuing to advance economies so that we can afford to live, so that we can afford to have quality of life. And so I would tell you, like, don't comply. Don't comply.
I agree. Kelly and I own a spa in Saginaw area, North Fort Worth. That's one thing I'm like, if it comes to it, we will never shut down. As long as our workers are willing to work, I could care less. 100%. I will never shut the doors. That's the only way to fight it. If there is a Beto invasion
I've offered to debate him on several occasions on guns, and he won't take my invitation. But I'm going to get that debate.
He's got no friggin' clue about life. Like Beto is. The only time I ever liked him is at the end after he lost, and he's like something about effing yada yada yada. I was like, oh, he's actually got more balls than I thought. Then I realized that was just.
Oh no! What he said was, "Hell yeah, we're going to take your ARs."
No, not that. That's not the one I'm talking about. Yeah.
I was like, "Bitch can try."
Come get him. Come and take it. Final words for the episode. What do you got to share with the people? Anything? Oh, God.
Do it. Ask it.
Make this part of your final response if you can. What we were talking about earlier about being immersed in self-defense makes us white folk actually less racist.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, I was having a really interesting discussion with Maj Touré, who is a libertarian guy out of Philly. He came up with Black Guns Matter in response to Black Lives Matter. And, you know, he had had me do a training class, and then afterward we all went to dinner, and it was the first time in my life that I'd ever been the minority at the table. And I thought it was really interesting. And there were a lot of people at that table that didn't look like me, that didn't think like me. People I think in an earlier part of my life I would have been afraid of. And I wasn't. And I asked him point blank, I asked Maj, do you think that having a self-defense education makes you less racist? And he said, now you got it. Now you got it figured out. And I believe that. I believe that when people have the ability and the confidence to physically control a situation that they may otherwise avoid, I think that it makes you more open-minded to other ideas, other points of view, and other perspectives. And I think that's important for unity, right? You have to understand that Black people have, you know, there are Black people that have lived a way different life than us, that have seen different struggles than us. Women see different struggles than men. Men see different struggles than women. And a lot of times I think that's a thing that men should talk about more. Men don't talk about abuse. Men don't talk about the things that they struggle with, you know, psychologically with having to be providers, being fathers, you know, like that. You guys don't talk about that as much as you should.
You saw the episode with Kelly, though. I'm not allowed to talk about anything.
Yeah, I did, but I'll talk to her. I'll talk to her. Don't worry. But I think it's really important, and I think that we fear what we don't know, and that has to cease. And so we have to immerse ourselves in things that we don't know. We have to learn about things that might scare us, and guns are a big part of that. Like, a lot of people think that guns are scary. They're actually not. They're just a tool. And if I can, and I say this all the time, like, I'm a 5'7", 140-pound chick. Like, if I can master this skill and be proficient in it and teach it and be an advocate for it and be a subject matter expert in it, anybody can do that. It's not hard.
Perfect. Is that good for your last words? Or do you want to, well, also just tell people what, that's good. You ended on a high note. Pick a hat. You are officially now a BFD. So
yes!
Are you going?
Does that mean I'm a big fucking deal?
Yes, that is. So that was the double meaning of the show. Blunt force discussion also means BFD, big effing deal, or big fucking
I do
deal.
want the
I knew you wanted the camo. Sandbagging son.
You know, I had I hired a chick to teach me how to dress one time about 5 years ago, and her so she took me on a date and she got to know me, and her conclusion was, she was like, camo is your thing. And so anytime that you do a speaking engagement, so you need to expand your wardrobe and you need to buy camo something of everything. Camo booties, camo pants, camo shirt, camo blazer, camo earrings, everything. She was like, and then anytime that you do a speaking engagement, you need to wear something camo. Just the pants, just the shirt, just the blazer, whatever. And it works like a charm. And so, like, everybody gets that, like, camo's my color.
Camo's your thing.
Yeah.
I love it. Ladies and gents, thank you for joining. Sorry, this is a little bit of a long episode. Joe, you're the real MVP. I just want you to know that. Just don't report me to Mr. Crilly. All right, ladies and gents, hopefully find us. Make sure you're watching the YouTube. Watch all the good stuff that we do. And follow us if you want to be a supporter. Please go to patreon.com/bluntforcediscussion. If you like the gear, we've got Awake Not Woke stuff, like Awake Not Woke hat, Let's Go Brandon shirts, Unvaccinated Lives Matter, all that fun stuff. And, of course, all of our sponsors, thank you for being here. And we will catch you on the next Blunt Force Discussion.